Today we're going to talk about the importance of Acemannan and its uses in the human cell physiology. Mannose is very important in cellular communication. It's responsible for forming the proper structure and function of glycoproteins. Aloe is a rich source of mannose with high nutrition value, rare in the modern Western diet. Acemannan absorption takes place three different ways, and our cells in our body in general has three different mechanisms. I'm going to discuss each one of those. The first one is the specific mannose transport. What happens in the small intestine where the bacteria are located that break down polymannoses into small oligosaccharides or little bitty 3 or 4 carbon units or sugar units and single mannose. There we have pumps represented by the arrows in yellow, and they pump mannose into the bloodstream. Mannose is so important that if these specific mannose transporters, again shown here, if they're not able to find mannose to pump into the bloodstream, which is preferred, there are enzymes in the cell represented by PMI. These are phosphomannose isomerases, and they convert the pink circles, which represent glucose, into mannose. However, if there is mannose in the blood, then these enzymes are turned off. That's what the little X's represent. So that shows you how important mannose is. If there's not enough for the specific mannose transporters, then we have an enzyme. Then also on the surface of cells, like macrophages and phagocytic cells, they look for mannose-containing molecules, and they actually bind them, bring them into the cell, and they break them down into individual mannose and other monosaccharides for the cells to use, and then the mannose receptor goes back to the cell surface and it's recycled. It goes round and round, and it's interesting, it requires calcium to work. So we have a specific mannose transport site, and we have specific mannose receptors, and also we have specific mannose lectins. These are mannose binding lectins in the blood that look for mannose, bind it, and bring it in and internalize it, and it's used inside the cell. So you have three different mechanisms that bind mannose and make it available for you to use. And if you don't have any mannose in your diet, then you make it. Mannose is extremely important in glycoprotein synthesis. Here we have the nucleus of a cell. This is a good illustration where the DNA is read and the RNA is copied into glycoproteins. The little gold pieces of string, that's the protein, and then you'll see the red glyco, the sugar part sticking out. This is made in the nucleus, transported to the surface of the cell. Sometimes it's released into the outside of the cell, and this is how cells are able to communicate. This represents a language that cells use to communicate. The language of life is written mainly in monosaccharides. Here's an example of a glycoprotein. You'll notice that this one has 5 mannoses, represented by MAN. There's an NAN, GAL, that's galactose, that's N-acetyluramic acid, and then an N-acetyl glucosamine, and then you have the 5 mannoses, and then a repeat. These N-linked glycoproteins are named by the amount of mannose they require. There are those that require high mannose, those that require low mannose, or a little small amount of mannose, and those in intermediate, which they call hybrid. So these cellular words are so important, they're named by the amount of mannose they have. And we've just learned that your body prefers to get it from your diet. Here's a good study. This came out in '98, where they're just learning to recognize these cellular words. It says, glycosylation is the most common form of protein lipid modification, but its biological significance has long been underestimated. The last decade, however, has witnessed the rapid emergence of the concept of the sugar-coated biologic information. Indeed, the monosaccharides represent an alphabet of biological information similar to amino acids and nucleic acids, but with unsurpassed coding capacity. So we've learned that really the language of life is written in these sugars, and mannose is one of the most important sugars. Here was one of the first studies, this also came out in '98, where they actually looked at direct utilization of mannose. What's interesting is this is the Society of Glycobiology's journal. This is the official journal of the Society of Glycobiology, published by Oxford University Press. And in here they said utilization of mannose for glycoprotein synthesis has not been studied because cellular mannose is assumed to be derived entirely from glucose. So prior to this time, they thought there was no need to add mannose to your diet because we make it all from glucose. However, what I've just presented to you is the evidence that mannose is preferred from the diet. And why would God have made these specific mannose transport mechanisms if it wasn't important in nature? So, for more information, go to McAnalley&Associates.com. We hope that this has added a little bit to your understanding of aloe. Thank you.